Hello, and welcome to day 5 of the Inspiration Week. This is a very special week where we are hearing from some of the most inspiring speakers in the field of AI and AI ethics. So with us today, we have Felicity Burch. Am I right?
Yeah, correct.
Right. I should have asked you earlier, but good to have you today on the call. And everyone, Felicity is an executive director for the Center for Data Ethics and Innovation here in the UK, and we're so delighted to have you here with us today. So I know you will be introducing our speakers to some of the ethical concepts and ethics in general, but we would also love to hear your story and how you came to where you are right now. So it's over to you. Thank you so much, Felicity, for joining us once again.
Well, thank you for having me, and I will try as much as I can to sort of weave a bit of my personal story and the story of the importance of data ethics together. So you're right. I run an organisation called the Centre for Data Ethics and Innovation. It is a first of its kind organisation in the world. So it's a government organisation, and we are focused on making sure that data and artificial intelligence can make a positive impact on people's lives. And we do that essentially by helping companies, helping bits of government to work through some of the ethical challenges associated with their innovation and try and solve some of those problems before they happen. But really what I wanted to do today was share sort of 3 key things with you. So the first is around this idea that technology is going to offer all sorts of exciting ways to change the world. The second is that the most important thing that any of you can do and take away from this is to participate. And then finally, that careers in AI and a future in AI is really for everyone. So my first point, and I think a really exciting one, is just how many opportunities technology offers to change the world. And I think it's really easy to forget the value of technology because we see it all around us every day. And it's easy to forget how much the world has changed. The writer Douglas Adams, who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I really recommend you read if you haven't already read them, he described how we feel about technology in the following way. He said that anything that's in the world when you're born is normal and it's ordinary and it's just a natural part of how the way the world works. And the second was that anything that's been invented between the time of when you're 15 and 35 is new and it's exciting and it's revolutionary and you can probably get a career in it. And then anything invented after you're 35 is against the natural order of things. Now, I am rapidly approaching my 35th birthday, so I'm starting to worry about that last point. But luckily for all of you, you just have to worry about points 1 and 2 for now. And it is that first one, this idea that technology that you're used to is that's just normal, that I really want to challenge and I want to get you thinking about, because then you will remember how important technology is in people's lives. So I'm going to reflect a little bit on sort of how technology has changed my life, and talking about one technology in particular, one that we're sort of using to facilitate this right now, which is around video calling. So we use it all the time now. It's really normal. It's probably more normal than a voice call. In fact, you're probably pretty bored of being on video calls. But I can tell you that this has not always been the case. In fact, it hasn't been the case for very long. If we rewind a few years ago now, and I've told you how old I am, so quite a few years, to when I was 10 years old, I just started out at boarding school. I went to boarding school because my dad was in the Air Force and we moved around a lot. And my parents hoped that it would give me more stability. And, you know, there were lots of good things about that. I'm sure some of you are in similar boats or separated from loved ones for all sorts of reasons. And my main experience was just how much I missed my family. And I didn't have a mobile phone. So when I wanted to call them, I had to sit in a queue alongside all of the other girls in my boarding house to use the one payphone that we had. And I remember at the time thinking how much better it would be if I could just see my mum's face, if there could be a TV screen up in front of me so I could see her. And I also remember at the time thinking that this was some crazy science fiction technology, some sort of future that would never exist. but that does exist now. We use it all the time. And, you know, you think about the last couple of years, which have been so hard because of the pandemic, but they've also been a lot easier because of technology. And while a lot of that technology, things like video calls, have always been there, or you've always been aware of them, for a lot of you, it is still something that has been developed relatively recently and made a big difference to people's lives. And actually the speedy uptake of technology like video calling by government, by businesses, by your schools, helped us all to get through the crisis that we've just experienced that little bit more easily. There are also newer technologies that have helped us get through all of this, like piloting drones, which delivered medical supplies to remote places, or creating databases of where health equipment was so they could get it to the places that needed it as quickly as possible and save lives. And looking further forward, there are huge opportunities for technology like AI to play a role in, say, solving some of the big challenges of the day. So you look at climate change, which is clearly a massive issue. Things like satellite data and Earth monitoring technology are helping us to see how the climate is changing and tell better stories about that, to help people realize what they need to do in their day-to-day lives. Sensors and algorithms are monitoring energy use and helping people learn how to reduce it. And there are all sorts of future solutions that we haven't thought about yet, like the video calls of the future could solve climate change. And then on inequality, well, you know, where data is used well, data can help us to understand the causes of inequality. It can help us design better public services. It can check whether those services are working properly, and government support can be better targeted to the people that need it most. So, you know, data is not going to solve all of the problems that we face, but it can certainly play a really important role in addressing them. But new technology comes with a lot of risks as well, and it's really important that we talk about those at the same time. And you've probably seen some of them in your own lives. Certainly online harms, safety online, it's a key issue for many, you know, from people sharing unrealistic images on social media that just make you feel a bit rubbish about yourself, to some really serious issues around abuse and terrorism online. Privacy breaches. So sometimes people's data is used in ways that they don't want, or they don't expect, or is actively harmful to them. Or this idea of entrenching bias. So where algorithms, where data is trained on data that has historic prejudice contained in it, prejudices against particular groups, it can learn all sorts of unfair biases and incorporate them into its own decisions. So you see sort of hiring decisions reflecting previous biases, and all of those are problems that need working through with technology. So that's what my organization, the Centre for Data Ethics and Innovation, exists to address. It's not about stopping people using technology, because it has so much potential to do good, but it's about helping organizations think through how to use that technology well. And that's so important because, you know, I talk to people who run businesses, who are looking to invest in technology as part of government. And, you know, they're saying to me, Felicity, well, I know that we could do this innovation, but I don't know whether we should do it. And so we help people think that through by looking at a number of issues with them. So is the data, is the program, is the way you're using it, is it accountable? Do you know who's going to be responsible when things go wrong? Is there someone that you can go to and they need to sort it out? Is it designed with people in mind? Is it human-centered? That's a really important concept when it comes to data and AI. Is it fair? Does it treat people with the same sort of characteristics in the same way, where it treats people differently? Are there justified reasons for doing this? Is it built in a way that maintains privacy? You know, we talked a little bit around the concerns of data breaches, data being used in ways that people don't want. People often don't want people to know certain things about them. They don't want to feel like they're being spied on. So is the data being used in a way that helps keep that sort of confidence there? Is it safe? Is it secure? Is it secure from cyber attacks? Does it support beneficial outcomes for society and for the planet? And then crucially, I think this is a really important one, is it open to scrutiny? Can you go back and test why the data was being used the way it was? And are there ways to change it if there's a problem? So I think those are some of the key sort of principles that we're looking at when it comes to data ethics. So that's why I want to, the sort of first point that I want to get across. Really big potential of technology, can really make a difference, but there are some risks associated with that. So my second point is that the most important thing that you can do is participate. If we want the future of technology to work for everyone, the most important thing you can do is be part of the future of technology. So there's another author you should read, and her name is Caroline Criado Perez, and she wrote a book called Invisible Women. And her book demonstrated how the world is designed around what she calls a one-size-fits-men approach to the detriment of women and girls. And I have my own experience of that. So a couple of photos on this slide to tell this story. So my dad, I mentioned he was in the Air Force. He was a helicopter pilot. And because of his love of flying, my middle name is Amy, after Amy Johnson, who was a pioneering aviator in the UK, and she set many long distance flying records in the 1930s. And my dad was so keen to share his love of flying with my sisters and me. And I have very fond memories of families' days. And so where the Air Force sort of opens up the base and you get to go and see the helicopters, and you get to sort of walk around them and explore them. And I got to do this when I was quite a little girl. And in fact, that is me on the right-hand side of the slide there. And, you know, I really enjoyed this, but one memory is particularly deeply ingrained for me. And it's the moment I knew that I was not going to take to the skies. And this was my dad telling me how long some of their flights sometimes were. And he pulled out this tube and he asked me, you know, what did I think it was? And I had no idea. Really awkward silence. And I was just like, I can't even guess. Well, it turned out this tube was the toilet. And let's face it, it's not really going to work if you're a girl. Now, I'll be honest, I was probably never going to be a pilot anyway. I still haven't learned to drive yet. You know, I talked about video technology. I also hoped that all cars would be driverless by now, so clearly got that one wrong. But it's a reminder that if things aren't designed by women, then they probably won't work for women. And of course, we can think about that when it comes to all sorts of different groups more generally as well, thinking about people from ethnic minorities, thinking about people with disabilities, neurodiversity. If technologies aren't designed in a representative way, they won't work for a lot of people. So you need to participate and you need to raise your voice. If you spot that something is wrong, do not assume that others have spotted it. Challenge it, call it out, and even better, help fix it. And now my final point is that careers in AI are for everyone. Sorry for all of the pictures from my childhood here, but I wanted to wrap this up with one final story. So I don't know what you want to do with your futures, or what you're good at, or what you enjoy, but I do want to tell you that careers in technology are for you. So this is a picture of me when I was 12. I was a massive nerd. I'm sure many of you are as well, which is great. And this is me on my school prize giving day, and I just got 2 awards, and I was super proud. But I should also tell you that these awards were not for science or for computing or for maths. One of them was for singing, and one of them was for arts. And while I love science and maths, and I hope loads of you enjoy those subjects and excel at them, I really enjoy creative subjects. And for my A levels, so that's what you study when you're 16 here in the UK, I studied English, politics, economics, and graphic design. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, though I was always interested in government. So I just decided I was going to study what I was most interested in. And I really encourage you to do that too, whatever it is. Follow your heart, and stay curious. Because AI and data are creating all sorts of new job roles for the future. You may be the person developing the tech, in which case you're going to need computing and coding skills, but you may just as easily be interpreting the data, and careers as diverse as marketing and investment will need these skills. So you're going to need to understand how that works. Or like me, you might be shaping the policy that governs data, in which case understanding how data impacts people is going to be key. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I can't tell you what the careers of the future hold. I can only tell you that AI and data will certainly shape them in some way. For reference, my current job did not exist 4 years ago. My last job did not exist 6 years ago. And that is because both of them were related to technology and how people are using technology in a way that wasn't relevant even when I was finishing university. I got into this because I kept looking for jobs that I thought were interesting and gave me a chance to make a difference. And I think that those are good principles to live by. So I will leave you with one message, and it's this: AI is for you. You may not know it yet, you may not know why yet, but stay curious, keep learning, and the future of the technology industry, the future of technology, is yours for the shaping.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Felicity. That was really brilliant. What an inspiring story as well. And what a shame, what a loss to the helicopter world that they missed out on an incredible pilot. So that,
I think the
funny...
world is safer with me not being a pilot, if we're completely honest.
Honestly, I didn't realize that was the issue with the pilots as well. Never even heard of this, but that is very, very insightful. Thank you so much, Felicity. I have a question for you, probably a few actually. So I want to know, I know you already probably are aware of all of the latest developments, in AI, but what is it that you're most excited about now that you're seeing in the trends, what is happening, particularly in the AI for good space?
Yeah.
And also, what are you most excited to see in, let's say, 5 or 10 years? Where do you see this technology moving forward as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick just because there are so many things that I am excited about. But I think one of the things that is really cool and exciting is the role that AI is playing in speeding up research and development, and in particular looking at things like discovering new drugs and things that are going to keep people safe and healthy, because it's, the amount of data that you have to trawl through when it comes to drug discovery is massive. So AI can make a big difference and radically speed the pace at which new medicines come to market, which is going to make a lot of people's lives healthier for longer. But there's so many examples, I think, of where AI is genuinely changing the field of research, and we're just going to be able to move through it so much more quickly. So I think that would probably be the one that I would pick. But honestly, so many exciting potential applications.
Exciting, yes. And what do you see will be the most disruptive about this technology in the future? In 5-10 years, how would you like this to evolve? As an ethicist, where do you see this is going to make an impact as well? And what are your sort of wishes about this technology?
Yeah, so I think honestly the likely place that AI will be most disruptive is in the workplace, because it's going to change people's jobs a lot. I talked a bit, I don't know how, but in my last job I worked a lot with companies, and even 5 years ago this was a top concern for them. That work is going to change, that young people in particular are going to need to sort of change their careers and their focus a lot more in their lives, and whether people are sort of prepared for that. And I remember one person I was talking to, relevant for this audience, was saying that young people are going to have to become the masters of the midlife crisis. And I think what he meant by that was essentially you're going to have to get comfortable with your career, your kind of life purpose, what you're doing, changing, and being a kind of problem solver, and being of the mindset that you want to do different things and explore different things is going to set you in good stead. And it's kind of scary, but it's also really exciting, because it means that the opportunities that you're going to face through your life are just going to keep evolving. And I said, my job, this Centre for Data Ethics and Innovation, didn't exist before 2018. My last job was sort of first as well. And everywhere, there's so many new opportunities coming through. So it's going to be disruptive, but it's going to be really exciting as well.
And why did you choose the field of AI ethics to begin with? How did you come to AI ethics? Why didn't you go to medicine or teaching or doing something else?
Yeah, so I got into it because I was interested in government policy. So my career sort of, I started in economics and sort of moved into government policy, and I spent a lot of time talking to businesses about how they were innovating, and some of the problems that they were facing when it came to innovation. And in the early days when I was doing that, probably the biggest challenge that companies were facing was lack of skills, and needing people with specialist skills, and that's still a challenge. But increasingly, the conversations that I were having with people were saying, well, these ethical risks, they are holding me back because I really don't know if I should be doing something in this space. And I think that sort of story I was telling in the presentation about the opportunity of technology, but also the risk, both of those are quite profound issues, and really, really the opportunity to help work through some of those risks, to realize some of the great potential of technology felt like a good mission to have in life.
Amazing. So those young people who are hacking away and developing their projects right now, they're probably looking at various tools that have been developed by so many different organizations. And you will probably agree with me, there are so many frameworks. Somebody counted about 80, maybe more. Every single organization comes up with their own. A lot of this sadly is lip service, as we know. What tools would you recommend to the young people out there? Obviously, you're based in the UK, but is there anything that could be covering ethical principles globally, or something that they could look into as guidance? Because we have kids in Syria, in Palestine, in Hong Kong, really diverse group of children, and ethics for Hong Kong will be different to ethics in Syria, will be different to ethics in the UK. Is there some sort of a tool or guidance that you think they could be looking at and more or less agree on?
Wow, that is definitely a hard question. So I'm gonna answer that in two parts. So one thing that I would encourage people to take a look at is the OECD, which is the organisation that represents developed countries, has developed some overarching AI principles, which is worth taking a look at and being aware of. But honestly, I think that point that ethics is going to feel different in different countries is a hugely important one, and there's a reason that these frameworks look different in different places, and that's because your personal values and the values of your society do need to be reflected in the technology that you're developing. So I think the second part of my advice here is one of the points I was making during the presentation, and it's to use your voice and to think yourself about what is going to be a good use of this technology. Is it being used in the way that people expect it to be? Is there anything you are worried about? And make sure, if there is, that you are calling it out and you're finding ways to help other people raise concerns as well, because the truth is a lot of the risks associated with technologies, we haven't spotted them yet.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Some of the case studies, some of the latest happenings are quite worrying as to how technology is being used or has the potential to be used. So we do cover ethics at length. And we've even developed a course with Quantum Black, which is like a 5-day course, goes into every single one of the aspects. We recommend a tool called the Ethical Explorer, which was developed by Ahmadiyya Network. You would be familiar with that. But if you know of any other tools that you would like to recommend, please do share them with me by email, and we will distribute them, because we always look for the latest that we can get our hands on and offer it to the teenagers in the most accessible way possible. And so last question, perhaps, because I know we have already Fela, our second speaker, on the call. I would love to know what piece of advice would you offer to our young women who many of them have never participated in a hackathon before. This is their very first experience. They are learning about the kind of stuff they would never learn in school. The program that we have is very holistic, We touch upon human-centered design, obviously AI and AI ethics and entrepreneurship skills, and then it all comes together in a cool pitch that you probably would have heard many times in startup demo days, your Techstars and Y Combinator, and it's really, really inspiring to see. But for many of them, it's the first experience. And what would you say to them, to those who are trying? And maybe struggling as well, because it's, they're all under pressure. It's really stressful. It's a hackathon. Yeah. They're not going to have, another week or two. Some of them literally have a few hours left. Your piece of advice?
If you're struggling, you're learning. I really think that's important, and I was, so I'm learning to paddleboard at the moment, quite different. And I was having a coaching session, and the coach was saying, and I was really finding it hard, and he was saying to me that the reason that you're finding it hard is it's a bit like when you've got a new pair of walking boots, and you've had an old pair and you've worn them in and they're really comfy, and then you get a new pair and you get blisters, it's painful, you don't like them for a while, but eventually the walking boots will become really comfortable and you'll be really used to them, and you just had to break them in. And it's like that with new skills. It always feels hard. Do you know what? I've just started this job. It's also feeling hard. And it's a good thing. If you are finding it difficult, you are learning. But the thing that you need to do to work through that is ask questions and find your friends and make sure that you're asking them questions and you're helping them through it too.
Asking questions and asking for help. This is exactly the advice I often give as well, because it's so difficult, I notice, even for us adults, to ask for help. And children that we have, most of them working remotely, using Discord or Zoom, and it's really, really difficult to break that ice and get them to work together, let alone them asking for help. So yes, if you're still there struggling, please make sure you do ask your mentors for help, because that's what mentors are there for. But Felicity, it was a real pleasure hosting you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a Friday night. I won't be holding you up too long. Enjoy, our out of lockdown times, which is something that I know we're all enjoying and embracing right now. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great weekend. I'll be keeping you updated, and you'll see lots of things happening on our LinkedIn page, and me posting and announcing. But I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing what everyone else will be working on today and this coming weekend. So many hackathons will be wrapping up, and we'll be watching girls all over the world doing this work. But thank you so much for the inspiration today, Felicity.
Thank you.
And we're ready for the second speaker already, Fela. Thank you, Felicity.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Fela.
I'm sorry, I'm struggling with the internet, so I cannot turn the camera on.
Oh, what a shame, but never mind.
Okay.
That's all right. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we have got Fela joining us from Paris, from Capgemini. So Fela and I have known each other for a while now. And I'm so excited to have you back here doing another talk, Fela. Please do introduce yourself. Tell us about all the amazing accolades and awards you have recently received. And I'm so excited to have you back here with us today. It's over to you.
Thank you, Elena. So before I introduce myself and speak about my path, I would like to thank the association Teens in IA. As you said, we've been working together for a while now. And I am grateful for giving me this opportunity to share my experience. And I wish I will provide some tips. And I would like to acknowledge the priceless work of you, Elena, for this amazing association, because having a female role model in tech world is crucial for me. Myself, I have been inspired by my elder sister who engaged in a career in software engineering. That's why I chose this path. So today I'm here to tell you my story, speak about my background, my professional experience as a woman in tech, as an immigrant from Algeria living here in Paris, and as an innovator of a project that has been recognized this year by IBM through the prize Women Leaders in IA. So regarding my background, I have a master in software engineering with an option in IA and a specialized master in digital project design. I have been working at Capgemini for 4 years now, and I am here today, maybe in front of the next generation of women in IA, I hope, and to make sure that there will no longer be only 26% of women engaging in AI projects. Because it's not because they don't have the capacity or they don't dare to do so. This poor statistics for me doesn't really represent the potential we women can and should offer to bring more balance, not only for our own empowerment, but also to bring variety and open a new dimension for creativity. So I'm here today also to speak about women in IA, especially because the subject of this hack is IA. I want to give a quick definition of IA. It is the ability of a digital computer or computer-controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent beings. And if we compare IA projects to simple algorithms or programs, we will say that an algorithm is simply a set of instructions, a formula for processing data. Regarding IA, it takes it to another level, and it can be made up for a set of algorithms also that have the capacity to change and rewrite themselves in response to the data inputted, hence displaying intelligence. That's why we say AI. I also wanted to talk about the challenges regarding IA. And I think the big one will be with the question how to conceive AI and use it as an empowerment of man's mind to analyze the recent past, anticipate for the present, and maybe imagine better ways for the future. And now I want to speak about why should we engage in IA? Why is it important to focus on IA? This technological domain will shape our vision of life, our vision of the world, and we must be part of this change. If we miss this turning, we shall miss a lot. And always stay behind, because in the domain of technology, either you are a designer or a user. And I think it's better if we are designer and not remain only users. And I think it's important to take an active part in the process for the AI projects. It's important because AI tools and resources bring out not only new forms, but new contents, and the content will impact mental schemes and essentials aspects of our life. Also, in the talk of today, I wanted to bring a special subject, a subject which is sensitive, a subject for which I've been chosen as one of the amazing 40 women leaders in IA around the world. Gender is a social construction determined to a large extent by economic role and status, and women's choices and willingness to break change can play an important part to enable a move forward to bring down barriers. Because we need to increase this 26% of women in IA, and we need to design projects that really reflect the balance in the world and not only one side of the humans in the world. That's why I think it's important to speak about diversity and equity in IA. Considering the importance of technological advances nowadays for the development of economy, which is a condition for any betterment of life quality, and if we consider also the growing number of women who take this path, the next decisive step should be for them to trust, for us as women, to trust our capacity to enter this world by way of the entrepreneurial spirit. Because it's a fact, it's true. For too long, the entrepreneurial spirit has been associated with men, and it's a picture that doesn't reflect the reality in terms of women potential, knowledge, and ambition. So change in the domain of AI will be more compatible with the future needs and perspectives, and the sooner the better. That's all for me. I hope if there is someone who is connected, if you want to ask questions, Elena, if you have some questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fela. Really, really grateful. This is the second time you're delivering a talk for our audience. And every time you do this, they all really inspired. But I wanted to ask you more about your journey and your background. What were the challenges that you have experienced as a young girl growing up? And what led you to make the choices that you made in terms of learning about technologies and wanting to be in technology?
Yes. So as I said, by opening this talk, you know, I wanted to be a journalist when I was younger. I didn't imagine engaging in the tech world as in software engineering. And because I love reading, I'm a curious person. I always love to learn, you know, to read all the readers of the world. You know, not only Algerian writers, but in France, in the US, in the UK. Actually, my favorite writer is Oscar Wilde from London. So when I saw my sister engaging in software engineering, and I was curious. She's my elder sister, and I asked her, why did you choose this path? Because she wanted to do biology at first, and she explained to me that the computers are the future, that it's gonna be a huge part of our lives. So it was a strategic choice for her life, for her career. And I was young, so she helped me. She helped me realize that being in the software engineer or computer science open to you a lot of doors. Now it's a tool in every domain. We know it's you cannot now go to a company and they all have a department for engineering and computer science, and that's how I engage into this path. And then in the university, I chose an option in AI because I saw a movie about artificial intelligence. And I was like, because, you know, it's the combination of the cognitive science, psychological science, and computer engineering. So it was interesting to see how machine can somehow, they will never, of course, it's only in the movies they will replace human brains, but they somehow learned and evolved, and it was interesting. And then, of course, I decided to go to France and to immigrate into France, because in my country there was not a lot of job in computer science, not a lot of companies, so no future for me. So because of the language, because I speak well French and I studied in French, because of the proximity, I chose to go to France, and there is a lot of interesting work also in France, researchers. That's it. I think that's if I can sum up.
Fantastic. This is a really great journey to share, and so inspiring as well. So where do you see AI making the most impact in the future, Fela?
You mean in a domain, in a particular domain, or
Anywhere? Where do you see this going, either in business or in the space of AI for good that we're exploring, or where would you like to see this technology go further?
in business? I will see it in the top of the pyramid for the decisions in the companies, because if I can give an example, if we speak about what's extraordinary with the humans, that if we have this experience, and when you ask someone a question, he will always rely on his experience. So I see perhaps AI using the data of experience in general domain or activities, and it will give you the right answer, or the right, I would say, plan to take the good decision. So for me, it will be a powerful tool for decisions in the companies.
Mm.
And I will also, with the pandemic, it will, with what we've known now for 2 years with the COVID, I think it will help us also predict those kind of pandemics. It will also maybe helps government, because they struggled in the beginning how to handle this kind of situation, because they never seen it before. It's been too long in the history of humankind since we had this kind of pandemics. And I will see it in everything, actually, in for predicting, in the medical domain, in the business, helping for the decisions, in the transportation, maybe anticipating, traffic.
Fantastic. And Fela, what would you have told to your younger self? Imagine if you were still 15 and 16. What kind of skills, or what advice would you have given to yourself when you were still figuring out and wanting to know what kind of subjects to take at school? What is it would you have told yourself?
First of all, I would have told myself that everything is gonna be okay. It seems complicated because it's, when you're a child, you don't have this capacity for analyzing and seeing things in the big picture, So I would advise my young self to stay curious, to not only focus on the studying, but also to read, to try to learn what's happening around the world. Because even if you're a specialist in a technology, if you don't know how it's going to be used in the world, if you're not aware of the economical and social problems in the world, you cannot be in advance. You cannot see things coming, and you cannot so innovate. And regarding which you told me what to study, I think I wanted to study literature, and then I decided to take the scientific path. And I think whether you chose a path, it's never too late, to change and to learn more, and to we must not see that if you choose another path, or if you try to learn something else, you're wasting your time and you're behind. So you're not in the front. So don't be afraid.
Fantastic.
To sum up, don't be afraid, and try always to learn new things, to not stay in your field, to try to see what's happening around you, and be curious.
Really, really good advice. I think everyone, all girls participating should hear this and really hopefully follow this advice, because I think this is relevant to everyone, all young people as well. But in the closing, Fela, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice you would offer to the young people who are perhaps some of them are just beginning to work on their projects, and we're kicking off a hackathon, for instance, tomorrow in UAE as well, and some projects will be finalizing. But what would be the top 3 bits of advice you would offer to the young participants in this campaign? And I know you have already been a mentor previously, and you have signed up to mentor again, and you have seen children already working, and you perhaps would already recognize some of the challenges that they face.
I would start with saying working group. Don't work alone, because you cannot, when you think alone or when you brainstorm alone, you only have one piece of the solution. So when you're in a group, that's how you will figure out all the pieces of a solution, because everyone has his own view, his own way of seeing things. Second advice, I would say, but maybe it will be in general, not only for the hackathon of tomorrow, but you need to perfect a language. Because if you don't know how to communicate with others, if you don't know how to explain what you're thinking or to help people see what's in your mind, it's helpless, and it won't make you as powerful as you should be, or it won't be enough.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Fela. That was really brilliant. I think we have heard from really amazing speakers this week. That you have joined us to wrap up the Inspiration Week. So the big day, the Ada Lovelace Day, of course, is happening next week on the 12th of October. And I really hope everyone will tune in for the virtual panel that we have planned to watch it live being streamed on YouTube. So on this, we're going to close the Inspiration Week. Fela, delighted to have you joined us once again. Thank you so much for joining. And all other speakers, you have really made this week incredibly inspiring, and everyone learned so much from you. So I hope everyone listening to this also enjoyed the speakers that we had lined up. I certainly had a real pleasure hosting every single one of them. And I can't wait to see what the next week brings, and ultimately the projects that young people will be developing. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. We literally have only a few minutes left, but we are running on time today. So thanks so much, and we will be seeing you hopefully next week. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't miss out on some of the speakers that we will be highlighting during the next week or so.
Thank you, Elena.
Take care, Fela. Thank you.
Bye.